Hey, this is Andy Hussong, and I have a special guest with me today. His name is Winter Valko. He is the creator of a webinar platform that is called AEvent. And Winter is a friend of mine, has been for many years. And the reason I have him on here today, quite frankly, is because I get asked a lot. Now, people say that, and you always wonder if they're telling the truth or not. But I really am asked quite often, hey, what kind of webinar platforms are the best? Or what do you recommend? And I always have to tell them, first of all, that it really depends on your taste and and I have to ask a lot of my clients what they feel is best. But what I typically do is I direct them to a specific platform that I've known about for quite a while now, that Winter is actually the creator of, and who, I have several clients that have used his platform successfully. And again, that's called AEvent. All right. And so today I have Winter on here to share a little bit more about his platform and how he got started with it and why you guys can trust it. So Winter, appreciate you being on here, man.
Thanks for having me, buddy. I love your walking while you're making me feel I shouldn't be sitting. We'll say that.
Cool. Yeah, well, you know what? It's funny because this is the very first interview I've done where I've been walking and talking, right? I was going to mention a little bit about that at the beginning, but I thought I'd just jump right into sharing more about you. But for anyone watching this, I am doing this while walking on my treadmill for the reason that, first of all, it's healthy. Second of all, it's a great talking point. I've been on a lot of calls lately when I've been walking and talking with people. And that's one of the things they bring up, like, man, how do you like having a treadmill desk? So I decided I'm just going to do interviews while I walk and talk and hopefully listen more than I'm talking, right? So, but yeah, man, so I appreciate you joining us today. And I just want to get down to the nitty gritty to find out, first of all, Winter, how long have you been working on this webinar platform? What's the story behind it and how has it evolved up until today?
Oh man, it's been I call it like, the 7 year or the 8 year startup, so to speak, in the sense that it was born out of an idea for myself in 2015. Um, Let me share a little pretense to that. High school dropout turned Intel network engineer. I was a nerd connecting my neighbor's VCRs in, 84, 85, right? When I'm 5 years old.
What the hell is
Um,
a VCR?
for a lot of those people may be saying that, right? So I learned list building in '07 to 15. I did low ticket launches and low ticket stuff. I generated about 20 million during that time. So I was having success in my business. But 2015, I did my first webinar. I did my first high ticket. I fell in love. I know a lot of people probably feel that way. After doing a lot of low ticket, doing high ticket it's a different ball game, right? So I did my first webinar, success, continued doing that, doing my live webinar. And Andy, it sucked because doing a live webinar all the time sucks. Excuse my language, right? So 2015, early 2016, I tell my business partner at the time, hey, let's try to automate it. Let's use EverWebinar. That was the best solution at the time to automate and evergreen my webinar. I watched my conversions just absolutely thunk, like go in half. Um, so I tell Tim's the partner at the time, Tim, we have to keep doing this live. Let me figure out a better way. So I set out in 2015 not to create a software platform at all. I set out to create a tool for myself to really provide a better lifestyle for myself in the sense that I was doing this live webinar once a week, recently married, traveling the world, finding myself doing my webinar at 4 a.m. in Croatia, and I've been drinking a little bit. You know what I mean? Just combinations, or you're in Bangkok and the internet goes down, right? Combinations that didn't work. So my first goal to myself was to automate GoToWebinar. That was really the beginning, Andy, was for me to recreate that live experience or like live experience as best as possible within GoToWebinar so that I could keep the conversions up. That was kind of how this thing was birthed.
That's great, man. Well, you mentioned something important there, and that is that you created this initially because you wanted it for yourself. And I hear that a lot from different people who do create software and so on. And I just got to say that there have been a lot of people who I've partnered with or have had clients who just rave about AEvent. And one of the biggest reasons they do is for what you said. It helps automate live webinars, right? And integrates with Zoom, GoToWebinar, and so on. So I really want to dig into a demo or something. We'll wait on that for a few minutes. But I do want to ask you, so what can you share about that though, specifically? Has that helped a lot of people in this industry to automate those live webinars?
Yeah, I mean, we enable people to recreate that like live experience. We recommend, like let's say we're automating a Zoom, we recommend yourself, a team member, getting on, handling the live engagement because it's no different than a Zoom call, right? The experience is no different for the end user than you doing it live. We're just showing up and playing your video as if it's live. So we have users that have seen 4x conversion value from different platforms. We have users that have been able to take their business from already the multi-million level. Then now last year they did over 50 million, right? And AEvent has helped do that because that like live experience, increasing that conversion value allows you to scale a lot more. Like we all know that, like little ticks here and there add up, but like a double X conversion value because it's in Zoom on a live Zoom call versus a like live platform, right? Let's use EverWebinar as we mentioned them, a like live platform that's in a browser. So that's a browser experience. So partially it has to do with the app experience. How many browser tabs do you close in a day, right? Versus how many apps, right? So we don't consciously think about that, but subconsciously that's churning. So that does help captivate. Plus Zoom after the pandemic, who doesn't have Zoom installed? Whose grandma doesn't know what Zoom is at this point? So that also helps increase there, right? So those two kind of met. Again, I started out with GoToWebinar. Zoom became a thing. We automated that. Gosh, we came out with that maybe 3 months before the pandemic hit. So that just helped accelerate the process of AEvent helping our users increase the conversion value. But back to 2016, Andy, right? I've automated GoToWebinar. At this point, I've already been online 9 years. When I started list building, it was still coming out of the you got mail phase, right? Email was amazing. I could send an email to my list and use the first name field, and people would reply because they thought I sent them a direct email, right? That was the
Right.
knowledge of the world at that time. So 2016, I've automated GoToWebinar, but my attendance is dipping, and I'm feeling like I can do more, right? I've been around for a while. I'm like, gosh, my emails aren't doing what they were in '08. That's got to be taking effect here, right? So the solutions at the time, the other platforms at the time were very limiting. Like, hey, you could send one SMS, but you could send it 10 minutes before, that's it. Well, if you're asking for a phone number on your registration form, that's going to lower the conversion a little bit. Every extra field lowers that conversion, right? So let's captivate and use that better, right? So what I'm getting at is I added on then Twilio, right? Let me send Twilio messages. Let me send a message 10 minutes into the presentation that's a picture and it's an animated GIF and it's a FOMO invoker, fear of missing out. If you're not on here, join us now, right? So let's pretend you're registered for my webinar in 2016. And now I'm sending you that picture message 10 minutes into it. It's an animated GIF, a couple screenshots, and it's giving you that FOMO feeling. And then you're able to click that link and get into that GoToWebinar without that, hey, go find my Zoom or my GoToWebinar email to join us, right? So what I'm getting at is when I built this for myself, because I had that experience as an engineer or an engineering brain, but I also had the last 10 years of online experience, I was able to take those together and eliminate a lot of the frictions that I saw in the market, like that would ultimately lead me to earning less money, right? One example I use is, let's say you and me were to do a cross promotion at the time. Maybe I'm promoting your GoToWebinar page, you're promoting my registration page. Well, after that webinar, all the emails I sent for the last week, you still have it unintentionally going to GoToWebinar, right? And now it's a dead link. So
Yeah.
as a marketer, clicks are currency. So with the platform at that point, I was like, okay, let me evolve everything along, right? Let me set it up so my replay pages maybe has a 3-day access and it automatically evolves along. Even though this is an evergreen webinar, everyone's seeing the right thing at the right time for when they registered. No longer am I racing back. Remember, specifically, I'm in Maui at a mastermind. I'm racing back to my hotel room to take down a replay page because that's the type of marketer I was. And if I
Yeah.
say it's going to expire, it needs to be inaccessible, right?
Yeah.
So everything evolves along there. As the platform grew, right, it started out with GoToWebinar. We added Zoom. We added a platform called Avio. We have our own like live platform called A Stream. We have YouTube Live coming out next month, Facebook Live the following month. All I'm getting at is, unlike most webinar platforms, we support different delivery platforms, right? So it doesn't have to be just our A stream version. It can obviously be with Zoom, GoToWebinar, everything else I just listed. So in that sense, really, back in 2016, 17, I was frustrated with the lack of the platforms and what they allowed me to do. Let me send this picture message 10 minutes in, but also, hey, I was using AWeber. I want to use AWebinar. I want to send, and nothing supported any of this. So when I set out to build this, I was trying to take all the tools that my team was using and I was using at the time and make them all work together symbiotically like they're meant to, as opposed to let me build my own email service, let me build my own SMS service, right? So today, really at a heart, AEvent focuses on just that. Today we support 60 plus integrations over to 6 different delivery platforms. So you can bring all the tools that you want to use and it mends it all together with marketing in mind. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's amazing. So that gets me to the next question that I have for you. Is you mentioned conversions. I would imagine that by combining certain things, whether it's, obviously the webinar and email follow-ups and so on, but also SMS and some other things that you've already mentioned, that helps contribute to the overall conversion. And I know on your website it says double the show up rate for the webinars and so on. So that's great stuff. But I guess my question is, of all those things that you mentioned, you said 60 different integrations and all that. Are there some standard integrations or standard things that you would recommend anyone who's wanting to use your platform starting out that they use initially to get a webinar going that is converting really well for them, getting a lot of people on the webinars and so on, and before, advancing and adding more and more bells and whistles?
For sure. I mean, primarily the biggest that I see some marketers still not utilizing correctly, and this doesn't have to be used with AEvent, right? You could take this and use it elsewhere, but SMS. If you're not collecting phone numbers, or maybe you're collecting that phone number and you're just sending out that one reminder, right? You're so underserving. So people use it with AEvent. They use it with Zapier, other tools to duct tape it together, as I put it, utilizing SMS really. So because of some changes that happened in September here in the States with SMS, we had some users that went from being able to send SMS to it not delivering, right? They didn't go through the A2P process. And their attendance values, and I'm going to ballpark this, went from 25 to 30% down to 8%. And we saw this with 5, 6, 7, 10 different clients in that time span because it was the hammer got dropped down in the States. And what that told me, Andy, I was shocked, right? Because 2016, I see that I need to add SMS and other channels to improve my attendance. 2023, this occurs and I see at a macro how much SMS is playing into attendance, right? Because I literally saw multiple users that go from 20 to 30% down to 5 to 10% because they're SMSs, they're MMSs. What we teach and what we use, again, doesn't have to be with AEvent, but it had that much of effect, right? That's telling you that more than half your attendees are hopping on because of that SMS or MMS message. So first, still set that up. A lot of marketers, I still don't see them sending out an SMS, but it says, go find my Zoom email to join me, right? So it's great that you're getting that message out, but that's a friction point, right? So I can't tell you how to create this outside of AEvent. Inside AEvent, as I mentioned, everything evolves along. So there is no friction point. They always get to where they need to go, right? Because at volume, there's going to be a fall off where people don't go find that Zoom email. Had there been a link in there that took them where they needed to go, that's great. Now, other folks will send an SMS and they'll say, join us here. And it's a join link for all, right? We know how Zoom works. That you can go paste on Facebook, hey, everyone join me, and they don't need to register anything. Well, what's bad about that is the fact that you no longer can segment based upon what occurred. So great, they all got on. Maybe you get their email addresses, probably not because you didn't even try to get that. They all got on, cool. Afterwards, well, let's say you can send an email out to all your registrants. You're talking to everyone the same way, right? So in my time online, 2007, I could send out one email I could talk to everyone the same way. It was very quiet, right? It was like being in an open forest and there's no one around. 2023 is the opposite of that. We need to speak very intelligently to our audience where they're at. So not only attendee, non-attendee, but like if I send you a message and I send you the same follow-up, let's say I'm sending you to a replay, whether you attended for 10 minutes or you saw my call to action, you visited my checkout page, you didn't purchase. If I'm sending you the same message, I'm also leaving a lot on the vine, right? So I'm saying I am doing an attendee, non-attendee sequence. Most folks do that. But if you're not getting further down that rabbit hole, you need to speak more intelligently exactly where they're at, right? If I'm a used car salesman, you're on my car lot, you kick a tire, I get your first name, you walk away, versus we test drive 5 cars, I get you pre-approved, I serve you whatever it is, free water, popcorn, you get the idea. As a salesperson, I'm going to engage and close you very, very differently. My energy is going to be different, so on, right? It's going to be a very different conversation. But most webinar folks are talking to their attendees the same way. And it's stupid. So other platforms allow what I'm talking about, right? Pinpointing. So that would be the second thing. Implementing SMS is the first thing. MMS. Second thing is speaking more intelligently to your audience. If you're sending your attendees all the same thing, you're leaving money on the vine. You need to speak more intelligently, right? That cart abandoner, if you're sending them to a replay with or without controls, they don't need to see a replay. Yes, you may make some conversions, but you're going to make higher conversions if you send them to an order recap. Let's pretend after the webinar, you're that card banner for my webinar, and I send you a picture message the next morning. It's another animated GIF, and it's a couple testimonials or proof shots or what needs to speak to you because you're on the fence. And instead of sending you to a replay, I'm going to send you to an order recap page, a bonus review page, something that's speaking more directly to you where you're at, as opposed to, hey, go view my replay because you did or didn't miss it. I don't really know, but I'm there. So those are the two biggest things right now where one, yes, AEvent helps incrementally add all of those layers, but regardless of what platform someone's using, most do support that ability and implement those. Speak more intelligently. Yes, you have to have more follow-up flows and more email flows to those different segments, but do we want to keep working hard, getting all the traffic to underserve them on the back end, right? Let's make our back end stronger so that front end, now we're improving our conversions through all those different things we've been talking about.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, man, I say, why don't we just jump into a quick
Let's
little
do it.
demo? And while you're firing that up, I guess what I would like to know, and I think anyone watching this would want to know, is why AEvent over just using GoToWebinar or just using Zoom or using another platform that does do some of those things that you just mentioned, but maybe yours does at a higher level, for lack of better terms.
So like with GoToWebinar or Zoom on their own, they're not marketing platforms, right? So really there's not much built into that native app to help us as marketers achieve what we want. They're not selling platforms, right? They're communication platforms. So right there, if you're just using GoToWebinar or Zoom on its own, more than likely, you made it this far in our interview, you've installed Zapier or some other tool and you've duct taped it. And that's what I call it, duct tape. So 1 second back to 2016, I tried to duct tape. I tried to use Zapier at the time to send out that picture message. It was fragile. It was fragile, man. And not only that, at that time, a Zap would die because something's missing, and I wouldn't know until I'm like, why is my attendance so low? Because there was no notifications or anything, right? So these days you get notifications, but still fragile. So a lot of people can relate to that. The other platforms, in a sense, they don't offer different delivery platforms. They don't offer the 60 different integrations to talk to someone like via that targeted WhatsApp message, right? Using the different omni-channel type of stuff. They just underserve in that sense. I would like to think that what I've been able to build here with AEvent is partially my past life with my current life, right? That engineering mind and taking that into the marketing stack and melding them together. So a lot of times I'll tell folks, we're like Zapier on steroids for webinars and online events, right? We're really the connector. We're not trying to be the best email service and the best SMS service and this and the other. We're like enabling our users to bring all those together. And a lot of the other platforms don't focus on that. They try to be that email service. Well, what sucks is when that email service stops inboxing, right? Not only does it suck for them because they need to fix that problem, because that's a big problem, but it sucks for you as a user too, right? So with AEvent, you can bring 5 different email integrations. How about it? No limitation there, right? And that email integration provider can focus on being the best email provider that they are. So that's, I think, where a lot of AEvent is separated from the other platforms too, is we're not trying to be the best of anything. We're trying to help you make the best of everything with the marketing piece in mind. So I'll share my screen here.
Yep.
And I just open up to what I call an ugly screen. It's just a review of the different integrations we support. So I'm going to just roll through those, right? I've talked about a bunch of them so far, but we also support different types of things where I don't know of another platform that has a native Google Sheets integration. So with Google Sheets, let's say you have that cart abandoner, and let's say you have a decent sized team and you make outbound pushes to your hot leads, right? Why not from your evergreen webinar get that dropped off every day, right? No longer is you needing or your team needing to come in and figure that out in your CRM to assign your call center those leads. That happens automatically. Other things such as, let's see, where's some other interesting, really a lot of the interesting ones right now are like the WhatsApp. We support ManyChat WhatsApp as well as Wati WhatsApp. We're adding a third one with that. So WhatsApp is great internationally, right? Domestically, I still say SMS, MMS. Now, internationally, there are parts of the world where you're still costing them money when you send them an SMS, right? There are parts of the world where maybe they have 100 messages, right? Andy, I know you can remember back to the early days of the cell phone, like we had a set block of SMSs we could receive. What I'm getting at is whether it's conscious or subconscious, you're blasting out those SMS messages to your person in Egypt. Maybe you're costing them and now you're creating a negative before they're even hopping on, right? So the layers of these different integrations can really be helpful with that type of stuff. So just scrolling through, quick what we support. Here's an interesting one with Slack. So with our A stream and we're tying up with Zoom, let's say I'm a viewer of our Like Live platform and soon it'll be within Zoom. And I ask a question. Now that information can go through to a Slack channel. Back to 2016, 17, I've automated GoToWebinar. I'm paying 2 people to be on my webinars, waiting for questions, regardless of how many people are on the webinar. And we know as humans, if that's my task, I'm going to start first day being really strong, and I'm gradually going to get weaker and find other things to do with my time. So then all of a sudden it's taking me 10 minutes to respond to a question when that's the only thing I'm doing. Right. So my point is with Slack here and that integration, you as a business owner can respond to yourself because, hey, it's a Slack message and comes right through and it's easy to respond. Or you could put, higher leverage sales oriented folks on as opposed to that support person, right? Why not have a sales support person being able to engage there as opposed to someone that really is not sales oriented at all? So that's, the different types of integrations we support. With the platform, Andy, everything's built out in a timeline. So we've been talking about mainly Zoom. So I'm going to open up here our Zoom example. And immediately what we're looking at is our timeline at a macro. We're looking at the whole month worth of the events, right? 0 is the day of the event, and we're looking at items occurring before and after. I'm going to go into the micro view at the day level, and this is looking at the day of the event, right? And we just see different interactions and automations happening leading up to. So 8 a.m., this is active campaign. This is adding a tag, right? Sending a timed email to everyone. Now that active campaign email is going to have their join link built in. It's also going to have the right time and date, even if this is a webinar running every day, because those are all dynamic fields that are being sent when that person registers. So here we see an SMS, another active campaign, picture message, right? I'll point out here's that join link I've been talking about. So that evolves along throughout the process so that you're never having a lost click, a dead lead, something that's underserving, right? Getting up to the point of the event, we see ringless voicemail, we see Facebook media message, right? You get the idea here. So this is where, hands down, we have helped folks double their attendance, right? And I'm sure that folks watching this see how that can be possible because right now, if you're just sending out an email half an hour before, there's a lot to be done. With the other aspect that I like to point out with the platform, and I've already spoken at length about it, so I'm just going to give a brief view of how it works, is the different audience segmentation, right? So here I have 2 different audiences built on top of the defaults, right? We have registrants, attendee, non-attendee, and we have saw CTA didn't sign up, and we have attended less than 20. So this audience segmentation works with Zoom, GoToWebinar, all the platforms I've mentioned, and in here, time attended less than 20 minutes. right? A deeper level audience, the hottest audience from any sign up, in my opinion, or any attendee, from my opinion, is someone that saw the CTA, didn't sign up. So here we're targeting anyone that was on that Zoom call for at least 45 minutes as a combined total. Someone that was present at greater than the 113-minute mark. So we know they were engaged. They were on for 45. They're present at the 113-minute mark. Let's say that's the call to action. That's the first link drop, right? And then we have pixel-based stuff. Page view did visit your call to action page. Page view did not visit your confirmation page. For any nerds watching this or anyone that's a little deeper, we do support webhooks too. So let's say someone signs up and there's a Zapier flow, you can tell AEvent about it to remove them from this audience, not send them those types of messages. Then back at the platform, creating that type of engagement, that type of message, let's say one day after, let's say I want to send that FOMO invoker, not the FOMO, sorry, the speaking to that cart abandonment audience, right? I want to send them an animated GIF. I'll talk in a moment about how we support encores. I didn't even go into that. And I'll select that guy. And this is where we can engage with any of the integrations we support, right? So this could be for tagging them for tracking purpose in your CRM, dropping it to a Google Sheet, sending them like a ringless voicemail, right? How about like sending your audience like a ringless voicemail message, just speaking to that cart abandoner and conveying your message to them that way, dropping that to wherever the case, right? That's how the platform, that's really the high level overview, Andy. We integrate with your page builder. So back to 2015, 2016, the solutions at the time, I had to use the GoToWebinar lander. I had to use the EverWebinar branded pop-up. I'm like, I didn't like that. So the viewers for our users, they can't tell that they're using AEvent, right? It integrates in a way where it's literally going on your ClickFunnels, your lead pages, your HTML, your whatever. As you see, this one's set up for go high level, and you're just copying and pasting a couple elements over. That's keeping your registration page, your confirmation, your page replay page, all evergreen, right? Back to me dealing with that replay page. You don't have to take anything down, right? This countdown timer is going to go down to that minute for you because you registered on a Tuesday, right? But for me on a Wednesday, it's still going to show me a day. And then all the dynamic page elements, right? So you can, let's say we hit the registration page, hey, webinar starting tomorrow, one day, whatever. And they'll say Monday, February 15th, right? And then once that webinar occurs, it will evolve to the next one. Right. So nowhere in the flow are you having to like go in and update stuff or anything like that. Again, like back to the root of why I built this was to better my life. I found my webinar business started controlling my life, not just with the live webinars, but like the segmentation of the data and all of the links that I'm talking about here.
Right. Well, first of all, man, thanks for going through this. And anyone watching this, obviously, this is a high level overview. And if you don't mind me saying, Winter, right now is a good time to just tell everyone, if you want a more thorough demo, you can actually go to a page to sign up for one. You can actually get started at a low rate, actually a free month of AEvent just for, coming through my affiliate link. And yes, it's an affiliate link that you can get started with this, but Winter is hooking you guys up. If you go to endorsedtrafficpros.com/AEvent, that's AEVENT, then you can get a more thorough demo if you'd like, or go from there. But for now, again, I just want to throw that out there in case anyone watching this is already saying, hey, I want to see more of this. But I want to jump back, just pull it back for a second, Winter, and ask you, and I know this is kind of a random request because we didn't plan any of this in advance, but is there any way that we could see kind of the user interface? What is it? Not the user interface, but the prospect experience when they click on a webinar or a webinar through through AEvent. Almost said GoToWebinar.
So I have a screenshot here of our, let me sync this here, of our streaming platform. So again, multiple delivery platforms. One of them is our Like Live platform. That's for the EverWebinar user that wants to run their webinar every 5, 10, 15 minutes. That's what this looks like here, right? And everything's rebrandable. Again, you can put your own logo, you can host it on your CNAME domain, you can have all your own stuff. That's what that looks like here. We're also adding the ability to use this here with YouTube Live. We have some folks that, hey, I want to have a 30-person YouTube Live webinar and I want to control it, right? And I know 30,000 sounds crazy, but what I'm saying is you can actually embed a YouTube live into here. So that's how that looks for the A stream viewers. For anyone else, Andy, it's literally no different than what you and me are doing right here on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I'm an attendee for a Zoom meeting, and I'll go back here and actually just show as far as scheduling goes. So I'm an attendee for this Zoom event. Ignore this, I'm just missing something in the settings there. We support different delivery platforms in the sense of different Zoom accounts. And then we support meeting and webinar. So let's pretend I'm using meeting. The experience for you as the viewer, you hit a registration page that looks like a ClickFunnels or whatever webinar registration page. Nothing looks AEvent based. You register, you maybe get that SMS message, the confirmation page, or whatever flow is how you want it to be. And then when it comes to join, maybe you're getting that SMS message, hey, I go live in 10 minutes, join me. With that one, we support a cool integration called Nifty Image. Let's pretend for a second I'm pointing at a whiteboard and you receive a picture message and it looks handwritten. Hey, Andy, we're going live now. Right? As a picture message, it's in the preview pane of iPhone, Androids alike. And it's 2023. People aren't thinking you actually wrote that, but it's still attention getting. So what I'm getting is you click that and then now you're in meeting, right? Zoom meeting, right? A Zoom meeting is intentionally done with the case where you, me, and everyone else are on, we're sharing our video, we're muted, the system automatically mutes us, and we're watching the presentation live. Right? So just like if you were the presenter, you're watching my presentation, maybe I'm sharing my screen, maybe it's just me talking head. The experience is zero different than that Zoom environment or that GoToWebinar environment. There's no way to tell the difference. We even have proud users of the platform, mastermind.com, Tony Robbins, Dean Gurzy, they use the platform just in that way, right? Back to the start of pandemic, Zoom developed the massive meeting rooms for Tony Robbins, for that group. So now we help them automate it with that meeting experience, right? They'll hold their webinars, meetings, they'll have 700 people sharing camera. It's crazy. And then we're just live from studio replaying their video, right? But we use a program called OBS. It's a nice 1080p clean feed. There's no way to tell. So I don't have an example for you with Zoom or with GoToWebinar, but we've all been in those environments. There's literally zero way to tell the difference.
Right. That's awesome. And I just want to throw something out there too and get your feedback on, and I'll get up on my soapbox for a second. But you know how and the reason I bring this up is because your solution allows people to play webinars that are positioned maybe as though they're live, but they're called like live webinars in our space, right? And I just wanted to point out that some people will ask, hey, is this live or not, right? And so some people say that it's unethical to play a webinar as though it's live if it isn't. Well, I disagree with that because I think it depends on how it's positioned, first and foremost. I think if you are telling people, hey, we're doing a webinar live tomorrow at 2 p.m. and it's not live, that is wrong. However, if you're telling them, hey, we have a webinar or we have a workshop tomorrow, it's 2 p.m., love to have you join us, you're not saying it's live, right? So if you're just inviting them to a workshop, come join us at 2 o'clock. There is a workshop going on at 2 o'clock. You haven't said that it's live. You haven't said that it isn't live, right? And so then at that point, I believe if people start asking in the chat or whatever, hey, is this live? I'd have no problem, if I'm the one manning the chat saying, actually, this is pre-recorded. We just happen to be playing it through our system today. And I believe most people just want to know that they're not being lied to. And
or to know, or even to know if someone is on there with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So like 2017, I had those two staff. They were instructed because I consider myself an ethical person. I believe that I'm always being watched by something. With that said, I was never saying, hey, I'm live when I'm not, because that's not right in my ethics code. I would never say I'm not live because we know why that live environment converts, right? In aspects of that, I'll call us back to like mid 2020. We have those online concerts, right? And people are showing up in the millions to watching this online concert. Why? Because they want to know that they're surrounded by others, that they're part of something, that there's someone else there. But for all those millions, I mean, they were probably pre-recorded. They're probably not live. I wouldn't have done it live if I was the organizer, right? So my staff at the time, they were trained. Yes, I'm here live with you. Because
Right.
in my ethics
There you go.
code,
Yeah.
there's still nothing being wrong said. But I'm not saying I told him no, don't say it's a pre-record. If you need to get into the weeds in the question, never lie. Yes, it's fine. But that initial
Right.
response, yes, I'm here live with you, because the viewer is just
Perfect.
wanting to know. Yes, maybe there's some. Is this live? But even more so, it's just like, is someone else there, or am I the
Yeah.
only one here? And to get that response back, right, that helps engage the viewer. Okay, cool. I'm engaged more now, right? They're gonna stick. They're gonna stick longer. So yeah, we have the same drive of ethics codes there, and at the same time, some users come on and they say this is a pre-record. If that works for you, do it. And if it works for you to do whatever else,
Yep.
teach their own is how I live it. We've really built the tool in a way where, hey, here's what I believe is the best way to work with all these other tools. Have
Mhm.
it at what you will, right? With that said, we do have people ask, can you fake Zoom chat? No, we can't. It's Zoom, right? There's no way for me to have Jeffrey ask this and Robert asks
Yep.
that, and yeah. We can with Zoom, we can send a one-way message, right? So let's say a minute into it, you have the presenter automatically send, hey, everyone, welcome, we're here, happy to have you. Maybe at an engagement point, hey, are you understanding this, right? Maybe at the call to action, here's that link, right? And the computer will automatically type that and send to all the viewers, but we can't fake the chat. Now with a stream version, that screenshot I said, we built in everything. We built in all the tools, the bells and the whistles, right? So you can do that as you will. One thing I do like, so the fake chat for me is like kind of like on that ethics barrier code. One thing I do like about fake chat, if choosing to use it, and all the platforms support it, is use the fake chat to make a little bit that feeling like someone else is around. Really use that fake chat to overcome objections, right? Have Bob ask your number one objection, then have the support reply to Bob, and then the third party viewer can get that objection overcome through that automation, right? But it's not, for me, that's not going to an ethics level code where it's like, that's a little shifty. You're
Right.
just overcoming objection. So it's using like your main video. Now you have this other mechanism to also get your lead to where you want it to go.
Well, I think, yeah, and I see that more. It's kind of like the chat bots, kind of like a
Yep,
chatbot type thing now, where
exactly.
through AI, it's very common now. A lot of people's customer support is being ran entirely by AI anyway to be able to answer popular questions. And so the same thing can be done in a webinar if it's done again ethically. I think it is ethical to have the most common questions being asked throughout the chat. And again, this is just my opinion. Since you brought it up, I think that is, it's serving them. It's actually getting ahead of the game, I think, to, maybe questions they're not even thinking of yet, but they probably will because it is more,
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Just kind of get in front of it. Yeah.
It's like using another omni-channel integration, right? It's just using another tool for the experience, just like you're using that picture message to get them to show up. It's just using another tool for that experience.
Yeah, and in a way, it's like a sales page having FAQs on it. All right, so you get to
Exactly.
that point, you see the FAQs. Oh, okay, yeah, that helps. All right, that helps me understand this is for me, or you know what, this isn't quite for me, or whatever. And so the chat can do the same thing. So I know we
Precisely.
got kind of off track a little bit there. I just wanted to bring that up because one thing that I think is very powerful about this, obviously, having done numerous joint venture deals for people who do webinars. Over the last 11 or 12 years, one of the most popular aspects of it among all the clients I've worked with is the fact that you can run like live webinars to begin with. And I just love the fact that your software, which has evolved so much over the last, 8 years since you started creating it or so,
Yep.
is really serving people for not just that, but at such a deeper level, just on the conversion side. And like you said, bringing all these other integrations together to be able to allow people to use the services that they already enjoy using and playing together so that they can maximize the sales on their webinars. So
Yep.
that's what I love about it. What do you
Can
have
I
to say
can
about that?
I want to show you a quick feature, just a side note, because right back to me developing this for myself, that was my model at the time, that joint venture model. So one thing
Cool.
that I was running into, right? So I built this out. It's running that, but I'm still like taking the introduction that you've recorded for me, the MP3, and I'm taking it into Camtasia with my video. I'm putting that first frame up. I'm doing the video, so on and so forth, right? I'm sure folks have been through that, that do joint ventures. So one area that we can do stuff as well. So I'm going to go in here to an event setting. Right now, this is set for manual mode. So manual mode means you're still coming on in Zoom and doing that live. We've been mainly talking about automatic. That's why I built the thing, right? So automatic is when we're logging into that Zoom event, that GoToWebinar event, playing the video as if it's live. What I wanted to point out. So you sent me that MP3. In the past, I could recreate that Camtasia video. I upload it to the service, so on and so forth. Well, what we can do with AEvent, I upload that MP3 and I select it. So AEvent will now log in at the start of the start time. It'll play your MP3 while holding the first frame of the video. It's what I would have created anyways. And then it'll continue, right? With AEvent, we can also have stuff where it's, we call this dynamic video creator, but it's a playlist. So let's pretend I'm a little more advanced with my webinar. And Andy, not only are you recording me an introduction, you're recording me like an objection and a closing statement. Right. So now I can go and have it play the different videos and the audios. And it's all going to be a seamless experience for the viewer. But for you, you or your team's no longer having to remaster this video, so on and so forth. You can even have your Zoom or your GoToWebinar record to the cloud. And now you have that done for your replay, right? You never had to go into Camtasia or Premiere or any of that type of stuff. One other area to show that
Hey, before you go on,
Yeah.
let me ask you. So what you were just showing there, are you saying that, let's say that I connect two people who are promoting a webinar, or for instance, I'm actually hosting a webinar in a couple of weeks with somebody, and if I wanted them to have some of those interjections, I would just give them the script to record. They record the script, give me the file, the audio file, and whether I'm having your company set it up for me or if I'm using it myself, I just go in and do what you just said and just insert those files into the specific areas, and then it just automatically integrates.
It effectively creates a whole video out of that. So yeah, you could record me those 3 MP3 tidbits. We selected as I was shown in that dynamic video creator, and then it more or less creates a video from that, so that when it's going and playing in Zoom or in the delivery platform environments, it's doing all that. So like at that objection, right? It's holding the frame from that last video. It's playing your MP3, and then it's playing the next video, right? So it's intelligently based in a way where it's always going to hold that last visual frame. So there's no black spots. But again, like for me using this, I wanted to just upload the MP3. I didn't want to make it a different type and put I didn't want to muck around with that. Really, I wanted to have my team do it, right? And I wanted it to be the most efficient. I love automation. So in that respects, yeah, you just go in and select what you want, upload the picture, the MP3, and it happens.
Right. Okay, awesome. Well, continue on with what you were going to
so the other aspect of the platform, regardless of delivery platform, is we support multiple events, right? So back what we're looking at here, this is the single day of the event. Now, what I have built out here, if I scroll down, so we have an encore, right? So this encore here is defined to take everyone from that first event, all the non-attendees, and automatically registers them for another Zoom at 8 p.m. the next day. So this is the example of just one encore, right? So that's why I started doing back in 17 with my business, is running these automated encores, because we have seen that you get anywhere from 10 to 30% more attendance through that encore, right? So some folks will email them, hey, there's an encore here. Some folks will automatically enroll them. That's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. But here we unlock the ability to do these automated encores, or a 5-day challenge, a 3-day workshop, right? My point here is we're calling this as Encore, but you're just adding another event to this timeline. So we also have some users, because you have 90 days to work with on the full spread, we have some users that have like a 90-day training, right? Like a product delivery, or a 90-day webinar sequence, or, maybe it's a 4-week training series. So someone comes in on a Monday and following Monday, so on, is an evergreen sequence, but all of that's just baked right in, and it's all in a way where, again, it's independent of the delivery platform. So we just support that natively. And I've only been pointing out the delivery platform several times because it's so simple. So I'm in integrations here within my timeline. There's a lot of integrations here, so let's look beyond the fact that there's a lot there. I'm going to scroll down. We see that Zoom is there, right? Now, let's say I want to use GoToWebinar with this timeline. All right, are you sure you want to change it? Now it's a GoToWebinar timeline. Now when I go and schedule it, it's going to schedule it using GoToWebinar, right? So our timelines are very interadaptable with the delivery platforms, with the different integrations, all that stuff. But it's like all the marketing intelligence baked into it, if you will. Whereas Zapier, it's similar to stuff like Zapier, but there's no marketing intelligence, right? And it's very fragile.
Right.
Yeah.
So a question for that, just looking at that screen, where it said go to webinar at the top, where you
Yep,
had
yep.
toggled that.
Here we are.
So in advance of that, you would just be taking some kind of an API key or something from your GoToWebinar account and setting it up in the settings within AEvent, correct?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's easier than that. So we'll go here.
I'm sure it is with you, man. You are a wizard.
It's at an integration, right? So we would select GoToWebinar. We would add that integration, and then just like Zapier, right? It's going to say, okay, log into your GoToWebinar account, click allow. Okay, now it's connected.
That's awesome. Man, I'm geeking out on this stuff. Well, dude, we could go on and on about this for sure. You're making me want to get my own AEvent account and then taking the recording that we're doing now and putting that in AEvent.
Just running it. Yep.
And having it going, forever. But no, so I guess I will just ask, do you have any last comments you want to make to anyone who's considering getting a free 30-day trial of AEvent, who maybe has a really solid webinar business going already and just wants to know if this is a platform that they could use to really ramp up what they're already doing or whatever?
I mean, without a doubt, one thing we didn't really speak about was, so we've been offering our service starting at $495 a month for about 5-6 years. In September, we introduced lower price points, right? So we start now at $95 a month, and then there's a $295 a month offer. And we also have the higher price points. Your link works with the free month for any of those. But my point is, we wanted to make it more accessible, right? More user accessible for those that aren't crushing. Like most of our users have been the 7, 8, 9-figure webinar type businesses, right? We've had ClickFunnels and Brunson, Russell, Tony, all those big names use it. What I'm getting at is that with the lower price points, making it more accessible for that person. So that's really like my biggest takeaway from our lower price points is getting someone in to see the improvements, right? Because I don't blame anyone. $500 is a lot to sign up for a platform, but if we make one more sale or 2 more sales of your product, right? Now with the lower price points, it's just kind of a no-brainer for most. At the $95, let's say someone's running a live Zoom and they want to do their live Zoom every week. Well, we can wrap all that marketing intelligence around it. So they're still doing that live, but everything else, all that segmentation, all that omni-channel can now be done. Still do your Zoom live, $95 a month.
Wow. So I'm glad I asked that question, because now I guess a follow-up question is just to confirm that what you're saying is the AEvent platform is something who, let's say someone has a proven offer, but maybe they're just getting their webinar going, maybe with paid traffic, but also with joint venture partners or whatever. It sounds like this would be a platform that if they get in and utilize this from the start so that they can, add some of these integrations that help with the conversions and so on, that this could help them really maximize the success of their early webinars they're doing, so that at that point, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it does go well, and let's say they work with a joint venture partner, an affiliate who sends them traffic and it does really well, they can then leverage those results to get more and more partners on board. And by utilizing AEvent, it sounds like it could really just help streamline those conversions. Is that right? I mean,
yeah, 100%. Like in the last 6 months with the platform, with the team, we focused on again making AEvent accessible and usable for the person that's starting out with the webinar, right? Someone that doesn't have this crushing webinar yet, but starting out. So we get asked questions. Well, do you have SOPs? Do you have best practices? I don't know when to send that text message. What type of email should I send now, right? So I didn't go into our wizard. I'm not going to dive in there, but it works in a way where it asks you the information. What integrations do you want to use? What list do you want it to go on? And not only that, like, here's our mailing sequence we recommend, right? We have a mailing sequence that's installed in a lot of the different ESPs with a share code, or you can use our Google Drive version. It's like 70 emails, 62 emails, right? So it's
Wow.
the indoctrination series and the card abandonment series and the encore series and all of that type of stuff. So we share all of that, right? With our wizard, we're going through, we select, we want to use Twilio, we want to use this, create timeline. Now we look back at that timeline view, right? And I'll go back there really quick. Something similar to this based upon what I selected. Now we have this, right? So this text message is automatically created. And just like it is here, it's generic. So we recommend going in and adding your voice, making it yours, but it's all built in. So there's the best practices, the SOPs and so on, so that you can then take and use that system, that metric, that layout, because you haven't been through it, right? Because you don't know 10 minutes in, send that FOMO invoker picture message, right? So yeah, we share all of that with the group now, with the users of the platform, and all of that information and all of this, if you will, the platform at this point has helped do over $1 billion in Infomart product sales, right? So at a macro level, we see a lot happening and what's working and what's not working and stuff. We all actually kicked off just this week. We do open office hours 4 days a week as well. So 4 times a week at a set time, users can join in and ask questions, right? And get help. And we offer that down to our lowest price points. We've done white glove and stuff, the higher price point stuff for a while, but again, wanting to serve that new webinar person, here's a way to hop on and get questions answered.
Yeah, well, that actually answered my next question was that, well, first of all, I just got to say that, even though I've worked with some of the biggest names like you have in the online marketing space and doing JV deals and so on, I think my favorites are the ones who are kind of under the radar a little bit, who maybe don't have the huge name in the marketplace, but they have a really nice offer. They've just released a new webinar or a webinar that's done well with paid traffic, and they're trying to get it out to JV partners and affiliates. Those guys are the ones that are my favorite because they're kind of, like I said, they're under the radar. They're I call them rising stars. They're about to just really hit it hard in the JV space or whatever, right? And so I bring that up to say that those are the types of clients I would love to be able to point to this video when we're done recording this and sending them your way. And my question was going to be, what kind of support can they get in getting ramped up? And so you kind of
so the office hours is one. Another one, let me show you here 1 second. Let's see here, get back to the right screen. Here is our help section. I just go here because we have hundreds of tutorials. So here's our help section. And for the self-onboarder, it starts with read here. Okay, I'm setting up Zoom, and it's a step by step of having you build it all out. And everything's detailed in almost nauseum. So here we're looking at different integrations, and let's randomly pick ActiveCampaign. Within ActiveCampaign, right, there's all these sub-tutorials. So there's tons of stuff there. We also have YouTube channel for folks that prefer the video learning method. And the other thing that I like to point out, we'll go back to the app here. Open that guy. This is actually quite high. Usually this metric is less than 5. We've had a team member out all week long. We have a small team. We've had 1 team member out of the 2 all week long. So usually this is less than 5. This is 30, which is still better than most. My point is here, 7 a.m., 9 p.m., Monday through Friday, usually less than 3 minutes. It says 30, but quick replies, right? Because Andy, like back to me being a marketer or an online internet person, nothing frustrates me more when I have a question, I can't figure it out, I ask it, and it takes 4 days to reply. And I'm the type of person where I don't stop. So I'll ask the question, but I'll stay up till 5 a.m. figuring it out on my own. So that also would add to the frustration when they finally reply 5 days later. So all I'm getting at here is quick response time. We're actually adding 24-hour Monday through Friday support next month, so that for our users around the globe, they're no longer like having to wait even 24 hours for that response, right? Office hours, YouTube, tutorials up the wazoo. In that sense, I really stand as strong as possible behind the product and being there for you, right? Like getting through the issues, getting through the setup questions or the whatever, through the different mediums, right? So we're constantly adding with that, and yeah, I pride us in that sense.
Well, good stuff. Well, okay, so now I do have one. I think it's my final question. All right, so we're going to, don't hold me to that, but I keep getting more questions. But this kind of jumps ahead now. So I know I just mentioned I love working with the rising stars, those who are kind of under the radar. But let's say we're talking about someone who, and they don't have to have a big name in the industry, but someone who's been doing a lot of big things with webinars, on the JV circuit, for instance, or just in any fashion, really, and they feel like they've already got a good system going, just running it through GoToWebinar or Zoom or some other platform that they choose to use. What would you say to them if they say, if it's already working, don't break it? You know what I mean? What would you just say to someone other than, okay, that's fine, right? Because that would be kind of my initial answer. Be okay, that's fine, no problem. But what could you tell them that would help them understand that, okay, well, that's great, but if you did this, this, and this, through AEvent, just think how you could ramp up your profits or your results.
I mean, at first I would ask the user what they're doing, right? So that partially have in my response what they are doing. A very small amount are doing a lot of what AEvent can offer, but there's one or two full-time jobs, right? So my response to some people is, I guess you're retiring then, because I'm not here to make less money or the same money, right? I'm here to make more money, right? In ethical, good ways, but I'm not here to make less. So my answer to them is, and legitimately, I've said this 100 times. If I'm walking someone through the platform, much like we have here, if I show it and based upon the energies I'm getting from them, I say, listen, if you don't see how this could add one more sale, I don't think we're a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth, right? Especially now, and I used to say at the $500 a month, that was our lowest price point. At the 95, it's just a no-brainer. I mean, even if you're just using it to get that hot lead to your Google Sheet, it's worth $95 a month. We're not talking about a large cost here. So anyone, I would combat it with, then either you're ready to retire or what you're using either involves a lot of humans, which is fragile, or is using frameworks that wasn't built for it, so it's fragile, right? So folks have Zapier duct tape around it. They're paying Zapier $1,200 a month, and they have these alerts set up so that they get woken up at 2 a.m. because the Zap is now turned off. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's the best answer, if you will, but yeah, my answer is if you're doing everything, then hats off to you. I've ran across one or two folks that are really doing it all. But then there's the automation aspect, or my objection, or my counter objection to them is, okay, so you have your team member automating your Zoom for you. Well, they're on an internet connection at home. Does your internet go out at home? Mine does. It kind of sucks. Wouldn't that suck if it was a live webinar? Well, our computers are in data centers. You know what I mean? They have multiple backup connections. They're at the same type of data centers that's hosted by Google and Yahoo and right? So I've been through enough of those calls where there's always a way to overcome the objection just because it's automation and it's how it's at a data center and it's built to do what it's being used, right? Hey, I use Zapier, cool, but that's a lot of flows and a lot of figuring out that you have to do on your own to make it a marketing system, because it's not a marketing system, it's an API system.
Right on. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man, this has been great. I really appreciate you jumping on here, giving a demo of the software, answering a lot of my questions. I told you ahead of time, I said when I'm doing these interviews, and I did say I'm not the best interviewer in the world, but I will dig as deep as I can as I get ideas from what you're saying. So I appreciate you taking the time to share all that for everyone. And I know I've already asked you if you had anything else to add, but I'm going to ask you one last time. Is there anything else you want to add before we end this little discussion today?
I mean, I hope everyone got some value from watching this. Everything I've talked about doesn't have to be done with AEvent. Take away that SMS implementation. If you're not doing it, do it, but don't just send one reminder. Take away that ability of talk more intelligently to your audience. If you're sending your attendees the same thing, I mean, I talk to people that send registrants the same message afterwards. You're so underserving your business there, and you're working a lot to get that traffic. Traffic generation over the years has gotten harder and harder. Man, 2007, I retired from my offline job 2 months after learning list building because I made 20 grand that month, right? It was very easy. All I'm getting at is speak more intelligently to your audience, use the SMS. If it's with AEvent, awesome. If it's with another platform, I wish you luck. That's all, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, so anyone watching this, as it stands now, we're recording this very early 2024. And Winter has been kind enough to offer you guys a free month of his AEvent service. If you go to endorsedtrafficpros.com/AEvent, that's AEVENT. I had to think it through a little bit. Then that will get you access to that, or to get a more thorough demo from Winter, you can go there as well. So I guess that's all we got for today, Winter. I appreciate you joining us. And and I will say this, at that link, I think I may have mentioned the demo 2 different times. I meant to say that you could also get started at one of the levels that he was talking about earlier. And so that's a possibility for you as well. But if nothing else, go to that link and request another demo if you want to see a little bit more before you get rolling with it. And with that, that's all I got. Winter, appreciate you joining me, man.
Thank you, man. Keep on walking, buddy.
You got it, man. Walking and talking, right?
Yeah,
All
definitely.
right. Guys, take care.